Hi humans, it's Zoe Lennon from Pauvre Bazan, and welcome back to my silly little series, where we are discussing a chapter of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie in 5 minutes or less. The last chapter was a little bit too long, so we'll keep this one quick. The title of the chapter is Get the Other Person Saying Yes, Yes Immediately. And that is also the principle in this chapter. And I mean, I giggled a little bit at first glance. That sounds a little bit sexual, but it's not like get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. It's I think maybe one yes would have been good enough in this title, like get the other person saying yes immediately. But it has to do with, again, when you're approaching a situation with somebody else where you may have a lot of opinions, perspectives, or needs or goals, if it's in a business context as well, that might not necessarily be aligned to the other persons in which you are interacting with. It's very important to start with all of the points that you agree on instead of starting the whole vibe of the interaction with no, right? And that is really simple because of the fact that, again, like as humans, obviously we all possess varying degrees of rationality, right? And we do have logic, but when it comes to interacting with other people, it isn't necessarily that, you're really going to win somebody over with your logic, especially if what you're trying to explain to them or get them to agree with is something that is in your best interest but isn't in theirs. You know what I mean? So the whole yes immediately, I would describe it more as following the principles of like an improv troupe, right? Where when people are doing improv, the whole concept of improv, it's based on saying yes and that is because of the fact that, if somebody's doing an improv scene, if a troupe is doing an improv scene, they can't be arguing with each other what the scene is about in front of their audience, right? Because of the fact that it's going to fall flat and the people watching it are going to be like, what are you people doing? And that is why the whole yes and thing is a thing, because you can't say no to something that another person is saying. And that's in the context of like, you're like, oh, we're in a spaceship. Then the next person's like, no, we're not. You can't do that, right? It has to be like, oh, yeah. And, we're going to run out of oxygen in 30 minutes because that's how you get the scene going. And that is honestly, when you take that approach to discussions with other people, it's not about being like the main character or anything. If anything, having that mindset allows you to also put yourself in the role of being a supporting character in that person's life, right? Where if you're somebody that anything that they're saying, you're saying no, or you're shooting it down, or you're making it difficult for them, or you're not acknowledging it, and you're only there for like your own benefit, you don't care what's good for them, they're going to be like, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? It's really that simple. But if you start with, all of the yeses that you have in common, and not only that, but you work together to find more yeses as you're discussing, when you hit the point where you're then talking about the aspects where you differ or maybe your goals are a little bit different if it's in a business context, then you get to that point where there's already a rapport of, okay, mutual respect. The other person knows that you're coming at this from a collaborative standpoint. The other person knows that you respect what they need or want to get done or their goals. And it's actually way easier to be able to compromise. And not only that, but to be able to think of things that are actually more beneficial to the both of you when you approach it from a yes and versus a combative perspective. Like now we're going from this to like this, right? Where it doesn't even have to be combative. If you view something from a combative situation, you and the other person are always going to be separate entities fighting against each other, right? Versus if you view it from a collaborative thing, you might actually both even get something good out of it that neither of you would have thought of if you'd just gone from you versus me, right?